This is Lance Archer, the American Psycho.
This is Bryan Thompson, the voice of TCW Wrestling.
This is the original hardcore wrestling and freak of ECW, the one and only Axel Rodney. Yes, this is the Shockmaster, and you're listening to Hardcore Wrestling Radio.
Hello everyone, I'm the Shining Star, Rick Star, welcome to another edition of Hardcore Wrestling Radio. I got the whole crew here with me. First, he's the son of a bitch, Andy. Andy, welcome to the show.
Hello everybody and welcome to Hardcore Wrestling Radio. Forgot where I was there for a minute.
Shit, everybody's here fucking up. And then we have the classic wrestling manager, Joseph Knight. Joe, what's up?
First of all, I'm going to, so like that I could get it out of the way. Taz talk, so in case I mess up later, we'll just fill that in.
And then over from Lance Moss TV, he's the incomparable Lance Moss.
How y'all doing? Let's have some fun.
Alright. And then over from iVlog, he's the Bay Area MVP, known as Will.
Yeah, remember that, folks, what he just said.
Yeah.
Exactly. He's just,
Really deep stuff. Really deep stuff.
Yeah.
I know what Will's just done. He's just sent the message telepathically for my Stoke Haunted fans.
Well, guys,
Only mediums could understand the question.
let's get on and talk about Eric Young and his new TNA World Championship, guys. And, you know, a lot of people are really saying that, you know, this is a copycat from, you know, a Daniel Bryan, that, you know, that he's got the beard, and this is nothing more than just, you know, TNA's copycatting WWE. Joe, you and I talked about this earlier in the week, and you really seem to think that that's exactly what they're doing.
Oh, hold on. Just the thing frustrates me enough. I'm gonna go kick a cat because, and I'm gonna go on a rant. Yeah, that pussy took a new height. My problem is this: Eric Young's a phenomenal talent. You know, nothing towards AJ Styles on that, but Eric Young, EY is a good talent, a funny guy, can talk on the mic. But let's face it, guys. Come on. In a span of, let's look at the couple months. Kane was fighting. First, Kane was teamed up with Daniel Bryan. Eric Young teamed up with Abyss. Then they broke away. You had Daniel Bryan with the Yes movement. Eric Young broke away from Abyss, started his little vendetta against Abyss, saying he created Abyss. You continued, the pattern was so identical that when Daniel Bryan won that world title at the grandest stage of them all, WrestleMania, you know, it was a big moment for Eric Young to be rushed in, win a gauntlet match, and just say, hey, guess what, guys, I'm going to challenge the champion right now and win it. To me, it was wrong for him to win the title in that type of way. They should have saved it for a pay-per-view. They should have made the whole thing much more intriguing. Like, the option I said was he would have won the gauntlet match, said, okay, now it's time. Magnus and Abyss would have came up, beat him down, chop a little bit of his beard off, and say, you want the title at Slammiversary, you get your title match, but it's going to be like this, or excuse me, sacrifice. It's going to be the sacrifice here. Magnus is sacrificing his TNA World title. Eric, you're going to sacrifice your beard. So if he lost, he's shaving his beard. If Magnus lost, he just loses a world title. That would have been a much better storyline than just rush it in just to give someone like Eric Young. And people are going to say it's a direct copycat because of that one thing. WWE has more exposure. I don't care who it is, who originated the beard first. Eric Young obviously did. But he's always going to be the copycat to the bigger company. What do you guys think about that?
Well, I mean, I agree with you on a lot of levels. Yes, obviously that the storyline itself is very similar. I mean, it's almost a carbon copy, so to speak, of of WWE's storyline. I'm wondering now that Eric Young has the title, if maybe that TNA is trying to do something where maybe they're going to flip-flop the title, or maybe, where they're going to do something with the beard. Maybe the beard comes into play and they say, hey, look, you want to, get the beard back, you want to get the title back, now we got to sacrifice for the beard. Maybe that still still a possibility. Andy, do you think that's a possibility now, or do you think that's too far gone?
No, they're going to shave his beard off because there's too many comparisons of him and Daniel Bryan. So there's some way they've got to get rid of that beard, and I just hope they drop the gimmick where the Miss coming out with the suit on, because he just looks like Corporate Kane.
He actually looks like the finisher from Slam City is what he actually looks like. That's just my thought. Lance, what do you think?
Well, I think Eric Young, with all he's done for TNA, he deserves better. So to me, it is.
Thank you, Shiki Baby.
Who always puts his 2 cents here on Hardcore Wrestling Radio?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys agree, but I think Eric Young now is taking the role of AJ Styles. He just seems to be taking the important role. Taking the AJ Styles role. That's how I feel.
Well, TNA is kind of short on their, big faces, as of late, if you really think about it.
Yeah.
Will, are you back here with us, or are you still using seeking us telepathically?
I was listening.
Oh, okay. What is your thought about the Eric Young winning the World Championship? Do you feel that this is a carbon copy, or do you feel that TNA eventually plans on doing something different?
This is more than a carbon copy, and ignore the music in the background. Truth is, the thing with this TNA creative copying WWE creative is because the writers are not original. They can't think of anything original. This is why. And Joe said it. Eric Young is the Daniel Bryan of TNA. I mean, this will unfortunately not be the year of the beard. I'm sorry. This is called the year of the copycat. Because you think this is really going to go anywhere going forward? And what Eddie said earlier, shave the beard, go back to prime time Eric Young, or Showtime Eric Young, I apologize. His better years with Team Canada were hands down very damn good. The beard will not make him any different. And yes, he is acting like new AJ, but it's just a matter of time of when Eric Young's going to drop the title. But I just think this is just TNA creative with thumbs up their ass, no creativity whatsoever, copying WWE. I mean, what the fuck are they thinking when they write? I don't know, but this is, do something with Eric Young. More productive and something way fucking better than this.
And for you fans who do not know that music that's being played in the background, it's Madonna, Starlight Star Bright from the late 80s.
I actually knew who that was, believe it or not. But thank you for, announcing who that music was. Joe, we were also, before the show, we were talking about Daniel Bryan and his storyline and how right now he's pretty much, the current champion, and, we talked out now that the Evolution are back together, and it seems like they're going off in a different direction, so we're wondering, who they might be possibly facing. Who Daniel Bryan is going to be facing for a champion, and who do you think is, going to, who Daniel Bryan will be having his next number one contender?
Well, Rick, I gotta say like this, and fans are probably gonna they have no choice but to agree with it. Gentlemen, listen to this. Daniel Bryan is now the top of the heap. He has no contenders for the title because Evolution is now focusing on the guard dogs. They're focusing on the Shield. So you kind of ponder, like, Cesaro can't do it. Barrett can't do it. There is one man, and he's managed by Paul Heyman, and that is Brock Lesnar. Now,
fuck no.
Yeah,
no.
but it makes sense.
Listen to this before everybody comments and gets upset. One, they can use the leverage of the streak to build up more heat. Triple H was a threat to Daniel Bryan. Can you imagine a monster, an unleashed monster like Brock Lesnar with MMA experience? Now that he can compete, he can finally compete in a faster pace than his sleeper fest with The Undertaker. He can now fight, he can now move, he can battle Daniel Bryan in a very good, speedy match. This is the ultimate threat to Daniel Bryan. Having a monster guy who can break an arm, who can punch you out, knock you out, can grapple, can move, is as big and as sturdy as a wall. All right? And then let's not forget Paul Heyman at ringside. What better way to give Daniel Bryan a threat to his title than have the monster himself, Brock Lesnar, challenge him for the belt? And again, he's beaten The Undertaker. He's held the undisputed heavyweight championship in WWE, UFC. Paul Heyman is in his corner. Gentlemen, this is your number one contender and the biggest threat to Daniel Bryan's career. You want to talk about David versus Goliath? You want to talk about the Mike Tyson taking on that little video game character, little Joe? This is everything in a big man versus little man match.
And I totally, once you told me the scenario, I saw it. I'm like, wow, it makes sense. It completely makes sense because right now, we went down the list in the roster, and who else is there at the moment? There is nobody. Cena is in a feud. Cesaro is in deep in the Intercontinental series. So as well as a few other guys. Who else really is worthy of the WWE title? Nobody. CM Punk is. Andy, could you see anybody else who's really worthy of a title shot, WWE title shot?
Not really. The only other person I can see making a big career change over the next 12 months is, and I can never remember his name, the big guy out of Shield, but they're going to have to break up Shield for him to take that, so it's not going to be him.
Yeah, and I don't see that happening until at least SummerSlam.
And as far as I'm aware of, Brock Lesnar's contracted up until I think his contract expires just before next WrestleMania. So the odds are, even if they have to extend his contract after WrestleMania, he's going to have a match in WrestleMania. Who against, I've no idea. But I just hope if they do give him the championship, that he's not going to keep it until WrestleMania.
I don't see him keeping it that long. I mean, I could probably say maybe until SummerSlam, which is 6 months. No, actually not even 6 months. It's like, 3 or 4 months. Excuse me.
Because if they give him the title, I don't know who they've, in their current roster, apart from that big guy from Shield, I don't know who they could, looking at it from a legitimate point of view, not from, we all know that Rey Mysterio could win in a wrestling scenario, but from the legitimacy point of view, it's got to be somebody big, and he's the only big guy I can think of, and that then would give him a push.
Lance, right now, hearing this scenario, is there anybody else, honestly, that you could really think about, that you could see, that you could pull out of the pack and say, okay, hey, aside from Brock, that you would really want to throw at Daniel Bryan?
Honestly, to me, it's too close together. They gave him the streak, now they're giving him the title. That's too close together. But is the only guy that they got that could fill that role, so I guess do what they got to do.
Yeah, exactly. Will, how about you? Your thoughts?
All right, here we go. This is one of my 2 rants. I'm sorry. I'm still pissed off since Mania. if I got to take this with sour grapes, so be it. I just don't think Lesnar should be the guy right now. There's other mid-card talent that could be pushed up and given another chance. I have a couple of them in mind. Did anybody forget about The Miz? Did anybody forget about Swagger? Did anybody forget about mid-card talent that was once former champions? I mean, I understand what you guys are saying, and I respect what you guys are saying. I mean, there's no other legitimate person, like Andy said, that could go for the title right now. But I just think there's other talent that should be getting some type of push right now. But I just don't think Lesnar's it right now. But unfortunately, you guys do make great sense. I mean, there's nobody else left. Mysterio, no, he should have been retired by now. But we'll save that for another show.
All right.
If I could chime in on what the picks that Will just said, while they're great picks, The Miz and so forth, Rick and I, we exhausted the current WWE roster, and we had our good points and bad points. And unfortunately, the people you said are the been there, done that, and they just have no lackluster ability. They just, their charisma to this point, they're in job land right now. Miz hasn't even really competed as much.
I haven't even seen the Miz in almost 2 or 3 weeks.
He's off filming.
He's not the thing, and basically, I don't see Lesnar winning it right away. I can see him going through a series of matches where he's literally hurting Bryan. Not taking the belt yet. I think they will wait to build up the storyline to the peak of they at least give Daniel Bryan a good run, give him some jobbers to defend the title against.
When's the Extreme Rules pay-per-view? What time of the year is that? Is it about August?
Extreme Rules? No, Extreme Rules is next month.
Oh, they can't. As you said, he could do it for then, can't they? Extreme Rules, where he.
No, that's coming up within a couple of weeks.
So it can't be done then because that's too soon.
Well, they could start the storyline right there. Like, whoever it is that Daniel Bryan defends the belt against. What do you think about something like that, stretching it out like that?
See, that I have no problem with, but, giving him Brock the title at Extreme Rules, hell no. The plan you just said, I like that.
Will, what about you? If Brock Lesnar if they played it that way with Brock?
Everything would fall flat on their faces. Only because Daniel Bryan veered through every obstacle that the Authority gave him, and now he's the champion. I mean, you go from finally being a champion on the A list to putting someone that is just dangerous in the ring. I agree with Lance. I like Theory. I just don't see him with the title. Not this early, anyway. I just don't see it. Sorry, I don't.
All right. Well, let's move on. We all know that Chris Sabin has actually all done with TNA. This is another name that's pretty much left the company. Hulk Hogan's left. AJ Styles is gone. Now Chris Sabin is gone. And this is actually, we also know that several other people are considering leaving the company, and this is all, of course, because the company has been lowballing them. Chris Sabin finished up after following the weekend's one-night only pay-per-view, weekend's taping, reports stating that they offered a new deal, but what happened with AJ Styles, the offer was too low, and Sabin just simply opted out, guys. This has just been a trend that with TNA, and they just have not gotten a hint that lowballing is not working out. Joe?
And again, TNA, the talent, and I said this a billion times, the talent it's a good talent for that company, but it's the office behind, it's the creative mind, it's Dixie, it's everybody back there. They're treating these male men and women as crap. You're offering them shit money to really be the big splash for your company. And, what do you expect? they leave. And then you're probably going to badmouth them. That's what happened with AJ. You know, you look at Sting, he's gone. Look at Hogan, AJ. You know, who knows how many other guys are going to leave soon because it is. Let's also not forget that Jeff Jarrett he just opened his Global Force Wrestling. So those guys could be looking to make the jump to a rival company.
You know, if you also want to look out, Mickey James has also recently left. That's another name, and it's just a big waste.
You know what it is? If everybody's finally getting into the rowboats and rowing away from the Titanic.
Yeah, Andy, with TNA doing all these lowballing, do you think that what they're trying to do is they're trying to get new talent in? Or what do you think is really behind all this? Or do you think it's for poor management, or what's the story behind this, do you think?
I think they've paid Hulk Hogan far too much money out of the funds, and they just haven't got the funds to keep the guys that they should have paid the money to be perfectly honest. I think Hulk Hogan will rob her for every penny she's got, because that's all he went there for. And I think, like everybody, no one in the world's got bottomless pockets. I think she's got, because we all know it's owned by her parents, so they've probably given her a budget and said, look, you can spend $10 million in a year, and that's it, no more. And she's probably spent most of that on Hogan. So now people like AJ Styles' contract comes up and he says, I want XYZ amount of money. She thinks, well, if I pay him that, I can only pay somebody like Bubba Dudley his money, and then who else have I got left? So I think she's cutting her nose off to spite her face, seeing how many wrestlers she can get working for the budget that she's got to pay, and she's sacrificing the good people and leaving herself with the shit, to be honest.
Lance, how many more people you think is going to be walking out the door, you know? We're talking about, you know, Kazarian is another name they're talking about possibly leaving at the end.
Sorry, just to interrupt you, Rick. Do you know when we had a discussion probably 5 or 6 months ago? I said that I think Hulk Hogan and maybe Ric Flair have gone in there to basically rape the company of its funds and leave them in a mess. Doesn't it look like that's happened, because both of them have gone their own merry way, and Hulk Hogan's now back with the WWE. Like I said, he was sent in there to cripple the company, just like they did with WCW. Send the insiders in, attack them from the inside, hit them where it hits. Hogan makes a nice little paycheck, and then walks away, and he's basically shat on them, to be honest. He's had the money, and he's had all the money off it, and then gone. I just think I think it was planned. I really do think it was planned from Vince. He's attacked them from the inside. He said to Hogan, go over to them, get $3 million off them for your guest appearances, and then come back to me when your contract's over. I think he's attacked them from the inside, because that's the way Vince works. He's nasty. He just stinks of an inside job.
Well, you know what? Actually, you know what, Lance? This is a question I'm going to ask you. Do you think that other wrestling companies and maybe even the indies will have a chance when Vince is gone?
That's debatable. I mean, I could see, because who knows how Triple H and who else is running it will, but they have more of a shot when he's gone than when he's alive. They have a shot.
Lance, over to you. What do you? I'm sorry, Will. Over to you. What do you think? Your thoughts about this? Do you think that Stephanie or Triple H will be just as vicious as Vince will be, or do you think they don't have that viciousness that Vince McMahon is?
Oh wow, this is a good one. Well, to go back to the list of people that you forgot to mention, Rick, Christopher Daniels is another one that's supposed to be leaving.
That's right.
Then about the Fallen Angel, Robbie T is his contract's almost coming up. But back to the regular topic, I think Triple H is really not that vicious. He's really he's a softy at heart. I think Stephanie McMahon wears the pants in that relationship. I really think she does. I think she's more vicious than Triple H. If anybody's been paying attention to the last 2 months on Raw, the body language tells all. So overall, Vince is still more vicious than his son-in-law and his daughter. Sorry. And back to what Joe said about the TNA thing, the one thing I'm going to say is, all hands abandoned ship. That's all I'm going to say.
Well, now I think it's time that we move on to one of our more favorite new segments coming on, and I think we know what that one is. Joe, you're up.
Wait a minute, I must get that, gotta get that feeling. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time again. It's where you get stuck with the lady of your dreams, shoot the women of your nightmare, and you fuck the lady who's left over. We are in the Super FMK moment, the Fuck, Marry, Kill segment, folks. And here we go tonight. This is something that's going to be a real blast from the past. Tonight is former WWF Women's Champions of the 80s. Now, the women I picked, I also put I have a little brief history of, short little history, so you can get an idea who they are. First of all, let's go with the fabulous Moolah. Moolah won the WWF Women's Championship in a tournament in 1956, held the title for 30 years until she lost it to Wendy Richter. And she's held the title 3 times. Okay, next participant, Leilani Kai. Leilani Kai won the belt from prior to WrestleMania 1. She won the belt to Wendy. She beat Wendy Richter for that title. Speaking of Richter, I've met Wendy Richter, great gal. She won the title from Leilani Kai at WrestleMania 1 back in 1985. While Hulk Hogan was the face of the males in the WWF at that time, Wendy Richter was the face of the women's division. She will hold it on for a bit till Moolah regained it. Gentlemen, your next participant in the runway of ladies is Velvet McIntyre. She was the one person who has the shortest reign as WWF Women's Champion. She beat Moolah in 1986, held it only for 6 days before losing it back to Moolah. Another participant, it's another dear lady I met one time at a show, very great lady, Sensational Sherry Martel, or Scary Sherry. She actually won the title from Moolah back in 1987 prior to the Survival Series. And finally, the little darling that was held the belt until it finished, so they decided to close it before bringing it back. Rockin' Robin beat Sherry for the women's title in 1988, held it to 1990. Then Vince decided to close that division up, and the only time you saw her again was she sang the national anthem at WrestleMania 5. So, gentlemen, Moolah, Kai, Richter, McIntyre, Martel, and Robin, your picks tonight on classic 1980s Women's WWF Champions. Now I'm going to put my hand in the old bowl, and I'm going to pull out a name. Will, one half of the Tag Team Champions, you're going first.
Damn, this is rigged. All right.
It says on the back of your slip, it says James told me to pick you first.
Bastard. Okay. All right, I'm looking at the pictures because I don't know one half, but I know the other half. So I had to make a quick little research, and okay, I would have to marry Leilani Kai. I really think her beauty is just out there. I would fuck Velvet McIntyre. And not to be mean and not to be disrespectful in the matter, but I would have to put 6 feet under the fabulous Moolah. And now I'm gonna tag in since Andy's already have a woman, Blanche. I'm gonna tag you in.
Well, I'm going to go marry Rockin' Robin, fuck Wendy Richter, and shoot Sherry and Moolah.
Makes you wonder where he gets all the bullets from.
And I'm going to go tag in Andy.
Oh my God. I don't really know hardly any of them. I think I would fuck Velvet McIntyre, kill Wendy Richter, and marry Sherry Martel, even though she's dead.
So you can communicate with her through your group.
You can actually resurrect her. Oh, Rick, you know what? We still got 3 lovely participants waiting for your hand. And everything else.
All right, I guess I'm going to have to marry Wendy Richter. Well, I guess because she might be on our show next week, I'm just got to fuck Leilani Kai. No offense, Leilani. And I'll kill Moolah.
2 left.
Joe, over to you.
Well, since my choices are limited, I would have to marry Moolah for the money she has. Okay, I'll marry her because she's dead already, so I inherited already. Yay!
There you go.
Actually, I met both Sherry and Wendy, and that's a tough choice because I met both of them face to face, and they're both incredible women.
Well,
but I think
you can't fuck Sherry Martel because she's my wife.
Ooh, let's see here. Okay.
What are you trying to say, Andy?
You know what? I would have to fuck Wendy Richter and shoot Velvet McIntyre because I think she had the most homeliest face I've ever seen in a woman wrestler. And with that, gentlemen, we have one name left, which needs this poor girl, Velvet McIntyre, needs a husband. So, Bae, would you mind sending her over to James' house?
Okay. I'll send a ticket to James in New Orleans via Joseph Knight HWR with the postcard that says, since you're training in New York City and you are not part of FMK, you're stuck with this Irish-Canadian wrestler. Quote Joseph and fuck you with the side note.
You know what? And I was going to do, since these are women of the 80s, I was going to cheat a bit. I was going to bring out the lovely Elizabeth to be the wife. But unfortunately, she is not. She's never held the WWF Women's Championship, so I'm going to leave that there. With that, gentlemen, next week, if we do this segment next week,
which we will,
your choice of women will be from the old 80s NWA. So the Baby Dolls, the Mueller from the 80s, Missy Hyatt's, the Dark Journeys. Get ready because they will be coming.
All right. Well, guys, I think we're gonna talk next about the Big E's. How he's now in the contenders as WWE's had that Intercontinental tournament, and right now there are 4 members, 4 guys who are in the contenderships. Right now, the Cesaro, Sheamus, RVD, or Bad News Barrett. Who do we see is the number 1 contender for the Intercontinental title, guys? If we could pick one right now, Andy, I'm gonna throw it over to you.
I would say Cesaro, but they've obviously brought RVD back for a reason, so I think it screams it's going to be RVD. How long he's going to hold it for, I have no idea, but I think they're going to give it RVD. This will be his last run, his last title thing, and then he'll probably go in the Hall of Fame next year. I think they'll just give him a pat on the back and say, oh, you can have the Intercontinental Championship for a couple of weeks, months, whatever the case may be.
All right. Lance, who would be your pick?
Well, my old school ECW fandom says RVD, but unlike Andy, I kind of think he has a few more years left in the tank. So I have to go Cesaro.
All right. Will, over to you.
I would have to agree with Lance. I mean, right now, since now he's a Paul Heyman guy and the attention that he's getting right now, this would be the best logical choice. I would have to go Cesaro.
All right. Joe, your pick.
Believe it or not, I'm going to say RVD. I could see Cesaro going into the finals with RVD, and I could see Jack Swagger doing something and taking Cesaro out.
Okay. Well, you know what, guys? I'm gonna go on a different road just to be the bad guy. I got to go with Bad News Barrett, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because he's been kind of on a bit of a winning streak. He's got that new little bad news, and the fans are starting to get behind him on it. The bullhammer elbow, I kind of like it. I've always liked Wade Barrett or Bad News Barrett as he's been rebranded, guys. I could possibly see him pulling this off and winning. Sheamus, he's going against Sheamus, which he has to win, and Sheamus got injured, so obviously I think he's going to go through him. So I think it's going to come down to Sheamus and Cesaro, and that's going to really show us who might win, and I still think that Cesaro might not want to get the Intercontinental. I think he's still going to get a Money in the Bank. So I think they might just give him the pass on this one and give Bad News Barrett the Intercontinental title. That's just my thoughts.
You know, that makes a good scenario, but I have to look at like this, and this is I'm looking at with the streak Cesaro is going. I can see him getting to the finals. He's about to beat RVD. He's about to win, and Jack Swagger comes and screws that up. So you got your RVD as your Intercontinental Champion. Swagger and Cesaro go back and forth until possibly SummerSlam, where they'll come up with some stipulation, and then Cesaro will win the belt afterwards. I can actually see Sheamus and Barrett either get counted out or come to a draw. Now, my real question is, wouldn't this have been a lot better if the championship was on the line? This to me seems like a big cop-out for Big E. You know, he should have been defending the belt more. I feel like they should have made some excuse. Big E should have been hurt. They took the belt off of him because he's boring as a fuck. You know, I'd rather watch flies fuck than watch Big E wrestle. And they could have put that title in the tournament and let them win directly.
I'm almost inclined to agree with you. Big E's not a bad. I don't know. It's just he's missing something, and maybe he needs to be rebranded because he does have something. It's just, yeah. I liked him when he first switched over to a face, and it was like, okay, maybe he's got something. And then he started going when he first won the Intercontinental. I'm like, okay, maybe this is his thing. And then he just kind of slowed down. He got comfortable, I think is what it was. Maybe that was it. But, so I'm not sure exactly, but
let me ask one thing, and I'm not trying to be racist or anything out of this, but have you noticed that when there's, an African-American champion, they don't last long as champions, or they just don't have the charisma? What do you guys think? I
disagree, because look at The Rock. And I totally disagree with you, and I just don't. He just doesn't seem to have anything. He just got, I mean, maybe it's his lack of charisma, but The Rock, it proves that you can have the charisma.
I agree with Joe, because to me, we all know The Rock's Samoan, so yeah, he's of coloured background, but I don't see him ever as a coloured wrestler. I always see him as a white wrestler, and that's not like disrespecting The Rock. But I think Joseph's on about like the Mark Henry, the proper dark wrestlers. They never seem to have any personality whatsoever.
Let's not forget Ron Simmons when he was WCW champion.
Damn.
Tony Atlas. Even when Ron Simmons was in WWE, all he was put in for just to say damn. Even as Farouk, D'Lo Brown, The Godfather, all these guys have really, they had something but the belts never lasted long on them. Lance, what do you think?
Well, I'll tell you what the Godfather had. Hose.
Yeah.
And
Not
Even they
pantyhose.
didn't last long.
Not pantyhose.
Nope.
Oh, train. Yeah. Yeah, I got to agree with you, man.
Well, I think we're going to move on to one of our final segments. It's time for Lance Moss's controversies and scandals. So, Lance, you're up.
Well, it's time for the Scott Hall scandal. In an episode of ESPN's E60, Scott Hall recalled a 1983 circumstance when he got into a fight with a patron at a bar. The two wrestled around with a handgun before Scott Hall was able to get hold of it. Hall shot the bruiser in the skull and was charged with second-degree murder, though the charges were later dismissed for insufficient evidence. Before I get your thoughts, since they inducted somebody who actually killed somebody, does this mean Benoit might have a shot?
And you know what? This is really interesting because you look at Scott Hall, who really was charged with second-degree murder, and Chris Benoit. It's a valid question. Andy, I'm going to ask you first. What do you really think?
I know the incident. I've seen the video. But I never, until Lance's just mentioned that, I never realised that, the reason why they're not putting Chris Benoit in is because he murdered his family. So if they've put Scott Hall in, it's double standards, really.
And keep in mind, this was a drunken brawl.
Oh, Sarah's just said to me, is it because Chris Benoit killed a small child? Is that the difference? Because they like PG-13?
Well, again, we don't even
reason?
know. Possibly, but we don't even know really what happened in that house. Nobody truly knows what happened in that house.
Nope.
We assume.
It's only speculation. I mean, I've always said, how do we know that she didn't kill him and then kill herself? We don't know. People are speculating all the time, and it's old. It's old.
How do we know it wasn't Kevin Sullivan?
Yeah, as I've always
I wouldn't go that far. I mean, my thoughts is you don't know that she killed the child and then Chris Benoit killed her. And then he killed himself.
Do you know the only bad thing to come out of this?
The PG era.
No, if you can remember, Vince got blown up in the Cadillac right at the end of Raw, and that storyline had to finish. What were the WWE trying to achieve by killing off Vince? I don't understand that, and they had to drop the storyline, and Vince, as we all know, came out on Raw, and we all thought he blew up in a car. We all knew it was a storyline, but we're supposed to have seen the demise of Vince. So I wonder why it's taken them so long before they started to phase Vince out, because I thought they would have let the Benoit story run for probably a year, hope everyone's forgotten, and then phase Vince out again. But they haven't really... They could have carried that storyline on, and they never did.
I'm not sure. It's...
One thing I got to say, though, this happened prior to his wrestling debut, and Scott Hall was a bouncer at this bar. So, maybe the situation got heated and the individual struggled, and Hall, seeing himself in a situation that, it's either do or die, took it upon himself. Which one of us, if put in the same situation, would it be, allow the guy to kill you, and if you had no way of disarming the guy, would you shoot the individual to save your own life? That is a totally different scenario than the Chris Benoit issue, because as Rick said and everybody said, situation happened in the house. We don't know what happened in the house. In my opinion, it sounds like one of those controversies where Benoit owed the mob and they strung him up or something and they killed his kids in front of him. You talk about Dino Bravo being knocked off by the mob. could this have been something similar with Chris Benoit? Because it was documented that he loved his son. He had issues with Nancy Benoit, but I don't think he would have gone as far as kill everybody unless he was super doped up on drugs that he just, saw all his opponents from wrestling past and decided to kill them all.
Well, you know what, Will, let me ask you a question. And do you feel that if Scott Hall had committed this crime, or and when he was more popular, if he was in the WWE and this happened while he was in the WWE, do you feel that he would not be inducted because it was like, right now this was like documentary. If you didn't see this documentary, you wouldn't have seen it. Where if they'd say, "Hey, Scott Hall, WWE superstar had just killed somebody," it would have been on a grander stage. It would have been a lot more, seen by a lot more people. Because I didn't even know he'd killed somebody until about a few weeks ago.
Yeah, and see, I mean, people are still talking about the Chris Benoit story in depth to this day still. And, it's going to take a long time for the WWE to process this and Benoit getting into the Hall of Fame. He'll eventually get there. We just need people in upper echelon management to not be so fucking biased, but we'll save that for another story. But as far as Scott Hall goes, I believe, if that really fell on him, the WWE would have never inducted him. And alas, he would have probably never got the big run that he did as Razor Ramon, or the small time he had in 2002 when the NWO came back. I think he would have never gotten as much as what he got now, if not for that. So I could say respectively, he dodged a bullet, but if it really did happen, Scott Hall would have had one circular career.
You guys with the network, I know James has got the network, but he's not on. Because they say that they've got the complete full back catalogue of all the WWE stuff. Have they actually put any Chris Benoit stuff on the network? Or is it still taboo and not talked about?
Joe?
I haven't seen any references to Chris Benoit. But mind you, they haven't put everything on the network. So they're gradually adding everything. So that's a good question, but I have yet to see anything with Chris Benoit. I'll actually have to take a look at it this week and see if he is somehow in a video in there anywhere.
Yeah, because I can remember Ashley, when Ashley was on one night, we were talking to Ashley. I can't remember. It was some pay-per-view that was, I think the network streamed that he watched, and there was a Chris Benoit match in, and they completely cut the complete Benoit match out. It wasn't even on the pay-per-view, although on the original pay-per-view he was on, they completely cut the match out. They didn't show any of the match at all, and I thought that's a bit naughty. Especially when they've advertised it that every single DVD and pay-per-view will be available on the network, but they've still excluded him. I know they've taken him off.
Well, they had the pay-per-view, but it's edited, which is not the same thing as a whole pay-per-view, which is, it's kind of a shit thing. You know
what? And here's the thing, too. The rise and fall of WCW predominantly shows Chris Benoit winning the WCW World title.
Yeah, so, I've noticed that. Even on WWE television, if they do show Chris Benoit, it's always in a WCW match, and I'm wondering if they try and say he was a WCW star, not a WWE star. I wonder if they're using that as a get-out clause that, he was not in the WWE or WWF, he was a WCW/ECW star.
Possibly. That could be one of the little disclaimers, and it's a shit thing to do.
Yeah, because whenever you see anything, even little video clips of him, because there was some video, I think it might have been Old School Raw, someone commented that you actually saw him on the opening video, and it was an ECW match. It wasn't a WWF or WWE match, so I'm wondering if they try and work around it that way.
Possibly.
Still
Well,
sucks,
guys,
because at the end of the day, they owned them. So whether he's wearing the ECW brand or the WCW, he's still under the WWE flag.
well, guys, I think we're going to wrap it up right now. We want to thank all of our listeners for listening. Make sure you put all of your comments in the comment section below. And, of course, make sure you subscribe to us over at our YouTube page at youtube.com/HWR Show. And, of course, make sure you follow us over at dailymotion.com/Hardcore Wrestling Radio. Andy, where can people follow you at?
Yeah, you can find me either on Facebook or on my paranormal page, which is www.stokehaunted.com. And don't forget, give us a like and a subscribe on Facebook.
We also have the Classic Wrestling Manager, Joe. Joe, where can everyone find you at?
Well, you can find me on Facebook at Joseph Knight Manager. You can also follow my Twitter at JKnightManager with a K.
We have the incomparable Lance Moss, and you can find him at youtube.com/Lance Moss TV. Lance, what do you got going on?
I got album reviews, NASCAR discussion videos, Redneck Woman cooking videos, and whatever else pops into my head.
We have one half of the iVlog tag team on tonight, and that's the Bay Area MVP, known as Will. Will, what you got going on?
What we got going on is something less than what Lance has on his wall. Get it off before Joseph and Andy have nightmares tonight, sir. But anyway, you can find me at www.iblog.tv/user/MayerMVP. We've always got the wrestling debate, sports discussion, and all the video game discussion as well. This upcoming week, we'll be doing an NFL Draft 2014 review for all you wrestling fans that like football, so stay tuned for that within the next week.
And of course, you can always still find us over on our Facebook page at facebook.com/Hardcore Wrestling Radio. So for everyone here, I'm the Shining Star Rick Star saying we'll see you when we see you.
HWR brought to you tonight by Andy's lovely picture of the ghost.
Thank you for listening to this edition of Hardcore Wrestling Radio. Be sure to follow us on our pages, facebook.com/Hardcore Wrestling Radio and Spreaker.com/HWR Media, and also on youtube.com/HWR Show. Until the next time, this is Rick Starr saying see you when we see you.